By his third year in office, Kennedy had established a bond with the American people through television. He was the first president to host live televised press conferences and quickly mastered the format. He held 64 during his presidency, an average of one every 2 weeks.
The end of this summer of 1963 would be an especially critical time for 400,000...
As many as 65 million Americans watched each one. They saw a man who was not only knowledgeable, but quick on his feet and quick-witted.
Supporters of your trade expansion bill feel that you have misjudged the implications of your decision to raise the carpet and glass tariffs. There have been 7 cases by the Tariff Commission which have come to my desk as president. In the case of 3 of them, I believe, they were by a split decision. 4 of them were unanimous, 2 were accepted by me, and 2 were rejected. Now, in this case...
Underneath it all was this really almost quasi-intellectual approach in which he knew, he read history, he read biography, he read events, and he had humor. Let me tell you, humor takes you just a long, long way in this world.
His use of spontaneous humor endeared him to the viewers. One example came in November of 1961. While giving a press conference, he received word that the U.S. had successfully launched a chimpanzee into space.
I guess this chimpanzee who was flying in space took off at 10:08. He reports that everything is perfect and working well.
He liked those press conferences, and he knew he was good at it. Time and time again, you could see his mind working. You could see that while the question was being asked, you could see, I thought I could see in him formulating the answer, and then when he got it right, he'd smile.
Excuse me, Ms. Montgomery.
Mr. President, I wonder if you could tell us whether, if you had it to do over again, you would work for the presidency and whether you can recommend the job to others.
Well, the answer is, the first is yes, and the second is no. I don't recommend it to others. At least for a while.
Mr. President, in the 1960 campaign, you used to say that it was time for America to get moving again. Do you think it is moving? And if so, how and where? The reason I asked you the question, Mr. President, that the Republican National Committee recently adopted a resolution saying you were pretty much of a failure.
Well, I'm sure it was passed unanimously.
If we had had to act on the Wednesday in the first 24 hours, I don't think probably we would have chosen as prudently as we finally did, a quarantine against the use of offensive weapons. In addition, that had much more power than we first thought it did, because I think the Soviet Union was very reluctant to have us stop ships which carried with them a good deal of their highly secret and sensitive material. One of the reasons I think that the Soviet Union withdrew the IL-28s was because we were carrying on very intensive low-level photography. Now, no one would have guessed, probably, that that would have been such a harassment. Mr. Castro could not permit us to indefinitely continue widespread flights over his island at 200 feet every day. And yet he knew if he shot down one of our planes that then it would bring back a much more serious reprisal on him. So it's very difficult to always make judgments here about what the effect will be of our decisions on other countries. In this case, it seemed to me that we did pick the right one. In Cuba of 1961, we picked the wrong one.
Mr. President, the practice of managed news is attributed to your administration. Mr. Salinger says he's ever had it defined. Will you give us your definition and ask us why you find it necessary to practice it?
You are charging us with something, Miss Gray, and then you're asking me to define what it is you're charging me with. I think you might, let me just say that we've had very limited success in managing the news, if that's what we've been trying to do. And perhaps you tell us what it is that you object to in our treatment of the news.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Well, I don't believe in managed news at all. I thought we ought to get everything we want.
Well, I think you should, too, Miss Gray. I'm for that.
President, this is a related question.
Yes, Miss Gray?
President, your speaking of historians induces me to ask you this. Most former presidents have put their official papers in libraries in their home states where they are not readily available to scholars and historians who've come here to work with the Library of Congress and other agencies here. Have you decided where to put yours, and would you consider putting it in Washington?
Yes, I'm going to put it in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Mr. President, the Democratic platform in which you ran for election promises to work for equal rights for women, including equal pay, to wipe out job opportunity discriminations. Now, you have made efforts on behalf of others. What have you done for the women according to the promises of the platform?
Well, I'm sure we haven't done enough, and I must say I am a strong believer in equal pay for equal work, and I think that we ought to do better than we're doing, and I'm glad that you reminded me of it, Mr. President. Ms. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, visitors who go out to visit Lincoln Park on East Capitol Street are dismayed to find it a slum. Congress has authorized, and the National Council of Negro Women will erect there a memorial stadium and a statue of the great woman educator, Mary Bethune. Now the transit company proposes to put an 8-lane freeway between the park and the Capitol, cutting it off. Could you inquire into that and see if the freeway could be put further out beyond the park?
Yes, I will. Fine.
President, do you think that Mrs. Murphy should have to take into her home a lodger whom she does not want, regardless of her reason, or would you accept a change in the Civil Rights Bill to accept small boarding houses like Mrs. Murphy?
The question would be, it seems to me, Miss Craig, whether Mrs. Murphy had a substantial impact on interstate commerce.